Okay, quick question. Would you eat something that's been sitting out, growing fuzz, for 6 months straight? No? Yeah, me neither. Except you probably already have. That block of Parmesan you grated on your pasta last night? It sat in a cave for 2 years while bacteria ate through it. That sourdough loaf you paid $9 for at the farmer's market? It's basically flour that's been left to rot in a controlled way. And that little shot of soy sauce on your sushi? Fermented for months, sometimes years, in giant wooden barrels. Here's the weird part. If any of that happened by accident in your kitchen, you'd toss it instantly, no hesitation. So what makes rotten on purpose completely different from just rotten? Let's get into it. First, let's be honest about something. Rot can absolutely kill you. That instinct you have, the one that makes you gag at a moldy strawberry, that instinct is doing its job. Some molds produce toxins that are genuinely nasty. Aflatoxin, for example, shows up on grain and nuts that got stored wrong, and it's linked to liver damage. This isn't some overblown fear. People have died from this stuff. And it's not just modern food safety talk either. Go back to the Middle Ages, and there's this grain fungus called ergot that would grow on rye during wet seasons. Eat bread made from that rye, and you'd get burning limbs, muscle spasms, hallucinations. Whole villages lost their minds, literally, after a bad harvest, with zero clue why. Some historians even think ergot poisoning might explain part of what happened during the Salem witch trials. Still debated, but it's a wild theory. So yeah, fear of rot? Earned. Completely earned. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Mold isn't one thing. It's not like there's mold, capital M, one single organism doing one single job. There are somewhere north of 100,000 species that we lump into that word. Some will put you in the hospital. Some literally saved millions of lives. Hello, penicillin. And a tiny handful got picked out by humans over thousands of years and put to work. Take a wheel of blue cheese. Those blue streaks running through it? That's a mold called Penicillium roqueforti. Legend has it a shepherd left his lunch, bread and cheese, in a cave, forgot about it, came back weeks later, and found the cheese covered in blue mold. And instead of doing the smart thing and walking away, he ate it. Didn't die. Kind of loved it, actually. Probably didn't happen exactly like that. But here's the real kicker. Today, cheesemakers literally inject that exact strain of mold into cheese with long needles, on purpose. Then they age it in caves with the humidity dialed in like a science lab. That mold isn't contaminating the cheese. At this point, the mold basically is the cheese. Same story with brie. That soft, white rind? Also mold. Penicillium camemberti. And get this. Scientists think humans have been growing this thing for so long in such controlled conditions that it's lost the ability to survive in the wild anymore. It only exists because we keep feeding it. It's basically a pet. A fungus pet. Now compare that to bread mold, the fuzzy green stuff on a forgotten sandwich. That's usually some random wild strain that floated in from your kitchen air. Nobody chose it. Nobody's controlling the humidity for it. You genuinely don't know what it is or what it's making. So yeah, throw it out. The difference was never mold versus no mold. It's mold you picked versus mold that just showed up uninvited. And this isn't just a cheese thing. This is a huge chunk of what we consider fancy food in general. Think about wine. Grape juice by itself is just sugar water. Leave it alone, and wild yeast on the grape skins starts eating that sugar, burping out alcohol and CO2 as waste. That's fermentation. That's a rot process, just a very controlled one. A $10 bottle of wine and a $1,000 bottle went through basically the same biology. The difference is how carefully somebody managed that decay. Beer, same idea, different starting ingredient. Soy sauce and miso get their flavor from a mold called koji, which Japanese brewers have refined so precisely that certain strains are guarded like family secrets, passed down for generations. Kimchi and sauerkraut get that sour punch from bacteria eating sugar in cabbage. And chocolate? Doesn't even taste like chocolate until the beans sit in a box and ferment for about a week first. Even your coffee went through a fermentation step before it got roasted. And that step is a big reason some coffee tastes incredible and some tastes like dirt. None of this is a garnish added later. The fermenting is why these foods taste like anything at all. So here's the actual answer to the big question. We didn't just learn to tolerate rot. At some point, we started domesticating it. Same as we did with wolves, same as we did with wild grass that eventually became wheat. We took organisms that could either kill us or feed us, and through generations of trial, error, and probably some regrettable deaths, we bred versions that reliably did the second thing. That Penicillium roqueforti mold in blue cheese? Genetically, it's split into different lineages now, depending on whether it's being used for cheese or bread. We shaped its evolution without even having the word gene yet. Cheesemakers in some caves have kept the same mother culture alive for over 100 years, passing it down like a family recipe, because, in a way, it is one. And this didn't happen in just one place. Fermented fish sauce in Southeast Asia, aged cheese in Europe, fermented dairy across Central Asia, cured meats basically everywhere. None of these cultures were talking to each other. They all separately figured out the same trick. Controlled decay turns food that spoils fast into food that lasts, tastes incredible, and sometimes is even more nutritious than the raw version. Before refrigerators existed, this wasn't a flavor choice. This was survival. If your family could control which microbes broke down your harvest, you made it through winter. If you couldn't, you didn't. The people who cracked the code fed their kids through famines that wiped out everyone else. And somewhere along the way, survival turned into taste. We didn't just tolerate these flavors, we started craving them. That sharp, funky umami hit? It's up there with sugar and fat as one of the most universally craved flavors on Earth. And maybe that's not random. Maybe our brains learn to associate that specific taste with "this food was preserved safely" instead of "this food just went bad." And honestly, that might be the wildest part of this whole thing. Every other animal on the planet treats decay as a red flag. Full stop. Avoid at all costs. Humans are the one species that looked closer, figured out how to sort the dangerous rot from the beneficial rot, and then built entire industries around manufacturing the good kind on purpose. We didn't just survive decay, we learned to farm it. So next time you're paying extra for a wedge of blue cheese, or swirling a glass of wine, or eating a 2-year-old cured ham, that's not spoiled food that somebody decided was fine to eat anyway. That's thousands of years of trial and error, figuring out exactly which kinds of rot to invite in and which ones to slam the door on.